Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we are talking about the dreaded B word. Hi, I'm Ms. Rita Brits and this is A Life Led Simply. Welcome. Today, as I mentioned, we are discussing the dreaded B word, budget. Don't know about you, but that's one of those words or concepts that I've been trying to ignore for quite a while now. But today it's the end of that. We need to change, we need to simplify our lives, and budgeting is one of the easiest ways to do it. So this is the next installment of my Simplify Your Life series, and it's a little bit more serious than our other videos. So bear with me. Now, I don't know about you, but I have never had a budget. Sure, I've had a spending plan, but that's exactly that. I planned to spend money. Probably not the most adulting moment I've had thus far, and that's why I've now ventured into the unknown lands of the budget. So, what is a budget? Basically, it's a plan for your money. Now, the reason most of us do not want to have a budget, or we fear the budget, is because we feel that it's going to restrict us. Someone, somewhere, I don't know who, is going to tell us, no, you're not allowed to do that because it's not part of your budget. Or you can't do that because it's not part of the plan. Or your budget is somehow going to jump out of your pocket and bite you in the butt because you did something that wasn't allowed. And after doing my research and really thinking about this logically, I realized that's as far from the truth as possible. The budget only tells you what you've got and what you can spend, and it gives you guidelines more or less on what to spend it on. And the reason why is so that you don't have to go into debt. So it's actually a lifesaver, and if you think about it, having a budget kind of frees you up for other things because it allows you to spend money in avenues where it will make a difference. It allows you to reduce your debt without making even more debt. So it gives you freedom. And isn't that what we all want? So now you might tell me, yes, I do budget. And then if I ask you, so what do you do as part of your budget? You will come back and say, oh, I pay my bills on time. I keep track of everything. I record everything that I've spent. Well, I hate to break it to you, but you're not budgeting. You are merely keeping track of your expenses. Paying your bills on time makes you conscientious, not good with money. So, if you want a budget, then there are a few things that it needs to comply with in order to be a budget. Firstly, it needs to be written down. So there needs to be a written plan of action. It can also be digital, but the point is you need to put something on paper so that you know this is my guidelines, this is my framework, this is what I need to move in between. Okay, these are my parameters. So it needs to be written down. Secondly, you need to do that before the period that you are budgeting for. So a budget is not something that you do in hindsight, it's something that you do for the future. So you will sit in February and work out the budget for March, and you'll sit in March and work out the budget for April, etc., etc. You'll sit in December and work out the budget for the year. Okay, so it's for going forward, not for looking back. Then it needs to take into consideration every single cent. That goes for what you bring in. So if you have a full-time job with a side hustle or two, then you need to take into consideration your salary as well as every other possible cent or rand that you make on your side jobs. So you need to know every single cent that comes in, and you need to know where every single cent needs to go. And you need to go and pair your responsibilities with the amount of money that you need, and then you allocate the cents that you're getting in to these specific responsibilities. So those are all the characteristics of an actual budget, not ones that I mentioned. You pay your bills on time, but why do you want to go through all of this trouble? Well, I think I've touched on most of them in my rants before now, but basically because you want certainty. You want that budget to tell you financially you are okay. You've got enough money to pay whatever you need to pay, and you've got a little bit something extra to cover you for in case there's an emergency or something happens. So certainty is the number one reason why you want to have a budget. Secondly, you can't get out of debt if you don't have a budget. If you don't know where you can shave expenses so that you can rather take that money and pay off debt or loans or whatever, then you will never make headway into paying off your debt. So it gives you peace of mind. It also gives you control over your finances. If you know where money comes from and where it's going, then you can also keep track of it, and you know if it's going missing or if you are spending it responsibly and wisely. And then lastly, budgeting can help you cut or stop those irritating financial habits that we all have that are actually detrimental to your financial health. So what we often do is we spend money on small things that we don't think really matter, but we spend it so often that all those small amounts add up to something big. So let's say every day you buy a cup of coffee, a takeaway cup of coffee. You don't even take that into consideration. At the end of the month, you're about 2,000 Rand short, and you can't understand where that money went. If you budget and you keep track of your expenses, then you will notice it's your coffee habit that is eating up your monthly income. And then you can stop. So, great for stopping bad habits. So if you want to now start with the budgeting process, there are basically two budgets that you can follow. They are very similar, so I'm going to try and give you the distinction, but in the end you might just go, nah, it's a budget, so we'll just budget. So firstly, you've got the 60% method. That basically means that 60% of all the income that you get is spent on your expenses, and the 40% that's left goes towards your savings account. And the savings are for long-term savings as well as short-term emergency funds. The 60% you then divide according to the 60% of your salary you then divide according to the needs or your expenses. The second method is the zero-based budget. That basically means that all of your income minus all of your expenses must be zero. So you go and you allocate every single cent that you earn to a category or an expense. Very similar, the two of them, as I've just told you. In both the 60% budget method as well as the zero-based budget method, your expenses are divided into two categories. You've got your fixed expenses and then you've got your variable expenses. Fixed expenses are exactly that, fixed. So they are the same every single month. You can budget them. They never change. That is what you know you are going to spend. That's things like your rent, your mortgage payment, repayment on your car, things like that. School fees. Okay. Your variable expenses are things that change from month to month depending on your needs and whatever happened. So those are things like your electricity account, your transport money, food, groceries, entertainment, things like that. So what the experts say is you allocate a percentage to each of these different categories. So firstly, you take out your fixed expenses, you know that's X amount, you take that out of your income, and then your whatever is left of your income, you then divide percentage wise to the different variable expenses. Okay, so if you want to do a budget, no, it doesn't matter whether you use the 60% method or the zero-based method, there are 5 steps. There are 5 steps that you need to follow. Firstly, you need to go and work out what your potential income is. That is now your salary, side hustles, any money that you will get for the month ahead. Now remember, you do a budget for a period of time that must still happen. So for the month ahead. Then you go and write down all of your expenses and remember to divide them into the two categories, fixed and variable. Then thirdly, you evaluate your expenses. Closely look at the things that you normally spend money on. If you notice those takeaway coffees, then you know that needs to stop. Evaluate your expenses. See where you can cut things back or shave things off to streamline your expenses. Especially important if you've got debt. Then number 4 is my terrible, it's the worst thing that you can possibly expect of me, but it's maths time. So you need to go and total your income and total your expenses and then simply subtract the two from each other. So income minus expenses hopefully will give you some money left, but if it doesn't, then it means you need to circle back to the previous step and reevaluate your expenses again and see where you can cut back so that you can actually come out with the salary or the money that you are getting in. So that is how you work out a budget. Now, if I can give you a few more tips, then number 1 would be automate your bill payments. So all of your fixed expenses, let them go off by debit order so that you know they are paid, they're out of your account, they're out of your life. Money that is left over is then for your variable expenses. Then go and draw that money. Have it in cash. It's very easy to overspend when you play with plastic, but when you have the cash, it makes it a little bit difficult because you can physically feel the money leaving your hands. So draw the money and then use the envelope method. What basically means is you take different envelopes for different things that you need to pay, like school or activity money, grocery money, entertainment money. Then the money that you have budgeted for these different categories that you now have in cash, you place inside the envelopes. So let's say you've got 200 Rand for entertainment. That means there will be 200 Rand in that envelope. Every time you do something that's got to do with entertainment, you take money out of that envelope and you pay for it. You put the change back into the envelope. You write the amount as well as what it was for on top of the envelope. Then you've got a tracking method as well. If the money in the envelope is finished, then it's finished. That means no more entertainment. And that leads me then to the next tip. If you don't have enough money, you never borrow from the next month. So you never say, next month I'll only have 100 Rand for entertainment, so I'm going to spend 300 Rand now. Never. You don't borrow money that you haven't earned yet. What you can do is you can swap between the envelopes. So if you've got 500 Rand for groceries and 300 Rand for entertainment, but you now need 400 Rand, then you will take 100 Rand from the groceries towards the entertainment, and that means you'll just have 100 Rand less to spend on groceries. So you can swap between envelopes, but never between months. You need to adapt the budgeting method as a lifestyle. If you keep on thinking of it as a chore, then it's going to be unbearable. But if you make it part of your lifestyle and how you live, it will become second nature and really easy. You will also remember then to keep track of your expenses, especially those small amounts that you tend to forget. You need to write them down and keep track of them. And then lastly, very important, you need to have the money talk with your spouse, your partner, whoever you share the financial responsibilities with. You need to sit and talk about the budget for the next period of time together so that you can together decide where you're going to cut, save money, spend money, etc. So you need to see this as a teamwork thing. Otherwise, you are going to fail before you even start. So my simple life lovers, that is my 10 cents worth on budgeting. I've now incorporated it into my life and it's going well, although I must try and remember to adapt as the months go along, because sometimes you get a bonus or you save on a payment here or there and then you can change your budget again. So you need to continuously adapt and change your percentages. So this is an ongoing thing. You can't do a budget once and then run with it for the next 10 years. You need to change it as your circumstances change. So let me know in the comments, do you budget? How's it working for you? What are the things that you really struggled with? And tell me if you have a few tips or solutions that I can add to my list or that I can make part of my lifestyle. If you like this video, remember to like it, hit subscribe, remember to press the bell so that you get notified of any new content. Go and subscribe to my newsletter, go read the blog, you'll find more information there, and then I'll see you next week.